In this video, we're going to take a look at the Hero 7035. Now, let's jump straight to the end with my thoughts on this pen. This pen was originally purchased because I was interested in trying a hooded nib before I went and tried the Lamy 2000. So I wanted to experiment with a hooded nib and a cheaper model, and I got it. Now, everything about this pen itself I should not like. It is very thin. It is very short as a pen. I have to use it posted. Yet, I enjoy using it. It goes against everything that I generally like about pens. And here's a case of a very inexpensive pen that writes super smooth with its very fine nib. It's way too thin for me, and it doesn't cause any hand cramping. It's probably because the pen is a bit heavier when compared for its size, but I, for some reason, really like using this pen. Even the filling mechanism that this pen has, I don't care for, but I like using the pen. Everything about it says I shouldn't like it, and I do. This is one of, if not my favorite, inexpensive pen. Now that we know how I feel about the Hero 7035, let's see how I got to that opinion, starting with the unboxing. The Hero 7035 came in only bubble wrapping in a mailer. Very discreet packaging. I don't mind that this pen came with nothing and it was just in really a mailer. It has survived all this time without any problem, and this pen has been thrown around, so I don't even worry about it when it comes to storage. For that reason, it gets dumped in a bag that has other pens in it. So not having the box was okay. With the pen out of the box, we need to get to the nib, and as long as it doesn't take 20 turns to uncap, I'm generally okay. So how many turns does it take to uncap? The Hero 7035 is a pull cap. The snap cap is secure and sure in place. I've never had a problem with this pen drying out. So their sealing mechanism that they're using works perfectly. And this is a great pen with the exception of its ink capacity for quick note taking. I do use this pen to go to the grocery store a whole lot because I don't worry about it and that snap cap. This gets us to the nib. This pen has a steel fine nib. As I stated, I got this pen because of the hooded nib. I wasn't even concerned about its nib size. So it's the hooded nib that, for me, was the real feature of this pen that I wanted to look at. If you enjoy videos like this, then be sure to hit the subscribe button. Now, let's ink this pen up. The Hero 7035 is a slide converter that holds approximately 0.7 milliliters of ink. The ink for today is Lamy Obsidian. This particular filling mechanism I don't care for. I don't like these kind of slide fillers. They just, for me, I've had a couple of them fail, but this one never has. It's been very reliable, and I don't like it as a filling mechanism, but I like the pen. As a habit, I don't normally post my pens, but some people like to post pens, and some pens need to be posted to use comfortably. This pen does post nice and deep very well. I've always had to use this pen posted. It is very thin. I want the added weight to sort of deal with that. It's just that it's thin. Without the post, it's long enough to not be a problem, but feels weird because of how thin it is, so I like to give it that little bit of extra length. So it posts nicely, securely, not an issue. Now, the important part, the writing sample. As I stated, everything about this pen I should not like, and yet I really like writing with it. And it's a fine nib that writes very fine generally. So you would expect a lot of feedback. And surprisingly, this has very little feedback. It's a super smooth writing experience the entire time. And while posted in my hand, it's very comfortable to write with, despite its diminutive size. You really get a whole lot more in this pen than its price would suggest if you go find it on eBay, which is where I found it, really just, again, looking for some hooded nib that I could get for under $5 kind of thing. So this to me is a golden find as a pen because I was experimenting with a type of nib and wound up with a pen I genuinely love to use. This pen is very frequently inked. Even if it's inked and stays at my work at school, I don't worry about it disappearing because it's very inexpensive and it performs really well. Being such a fine nib tends to have it perform very well on cheap papers, even though I think it writes a bit wetter than I would have expected. I can't say how much I do enjoy using it, other than saying I really, really like this pen. It is what encouraged me to look at more expensive pens. It wasn't some of the other pens that people would think of. It was this little cheapy pen that really made me willing to dive in the deep end. Now for something a bit more standard in comparing writing size. I use Namiki Blue to do this. Here it is with a Yovo extra fine on the left, medium in the middle, and a 1.1 stub on the right. I said that this is a very fine fine, and I can't see on the nib what size it is, so I call it a fine, although I think it writes more like an extra fine, and it's pretty noticeable how well it really does at being readable for such a super thin line. But how does the writing size of this nib compare to the other nibs I've used? Looking at the writing of a Hero 7035 with a fine nib, here it is next to a Waterman Graduate with a fine nib, a Kaweco Brass Sport with a fine nib, an Airmail Regal that writes like a fine, a Conklin Word Gauge with a fine nib, and a Noodler's Charlie, which writes like a fine pen. So it isn't a review without some size comparisons. Here it is capped. Here it is uncapped. And here it is posted. I stated it a couple of times, and it's noticeable how small the pen is. It's short, it's thin, it's comfortable in the hand. Despite what you see in those pictures, those were deceiving because this is a great buy as a pen. At this point, we have a dirty pen, so let's go clean it up. Be sure to check out the next pen review where we take a look at the Tasha Spectrum.
Did you start running out of products to sell people for no reason at all? Have I got the thing for you? A pencil. That's right, a pencil. And for the low price of $19.95, you can have a pencil of your very own. But wait, there's more. If you act now, I'll throw in this additional eraser cap. An eraser cap additional for free? Yes, that's right, an eraser cap additional for free. And at $19.95, it's a steal. Act now and get yours today.
If you want to be able to support not just my channel, but any reviewer, then when you make a purchase, be sure to tell that retailer where you heard about it. Thanks for watching.